Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 33 of Quattroporte, the review series for Gran Turismo's pretty decent selection of sports and also super saloons or sedans, four-door vehicles of a high-performance nature. And as I said, we have a pretty decent selection of these vehicles. Some of them though are definitely more obvious choices when compared to others. And typically the super saloon market is generally considered to be predominantly a European thing, especially Germany. Germany has a lot of very strong super saloons, and the Autobahn being the perfect place to use them. Stuff like the BMW M5, the Mercedes E63, the Audi RS6, etc. But that is certainly not to say that there aren't other countries which have great super saloons. America does, England does, even France does sometimes, although we don't have very many full-on super saloons from France featured on Gran Turismo. And also Japan has a strong following of powerful four-door luxury cars. The majority of Japanese sports and super saloons that end up filtering through to the rest of the world, though, tend to be the more competition spec machines, such as rallying legends like the Mitsubishi Evo and Subaru Impreza, and there are a number of both of those vehicles featured on Gran Turismo. And in this particular review we are reviewing an Impreza. It's the latest version of the Impreza that's featured on Gran Turismo, the 2010 model sedan. Now personally, I actually prefer this car to the hatchback version. I think the hatchback's a nice car, and it makes a lot of sense for Subaru to turn the Impreza into a hot hatch because it allows them to enter that market as well. This car though is truer to the original form of the Impreza. Now it's not quite as hardcore to drive as the hatch version. We do have a special Nuremberg Ring edition featured on the game, but I would actually not recommend buying that car, because as flashy as it is to look at, there's virtually nothing that you can actually do to it mechanically to make it that much better than it already is, which is a really unfortunate disadvantage. This particular version of the Impreza though, the WRX STI Sedan, I think is actually a pretty good car. We do have a racing version of it on the game, the touring car, and it certainly lives up to what an Impreza should be capable of. It's not as hardcore as previous Imprezas, but to be honest, that's not so much of a bad thing, because neither is its main rival, the Mitsubishi Evo 10. That's also considerably more sophisticated than the Evo was previously. So it's not like the Impreza has given up the challenge to the Evo, because they both kind of became a little bit softer at the same time. That being said, this is still a seriously rapid machine. It has a 2-litre Boxer turbo engine, all-wheel drive of course, and the maximum PP is 572, which is pretty reasonable. The power isn't overly high, but that's not unusual for the Evos and Imprezas. They're not as powerful as they arguably deserve to be on Gran Turismo, at 565 horsepower. It also puts out 477 foot-pounds of torque. It weighs in at 1,221 kilos, which, although, yes, is heavier than some other Imprezas, especially the older model Spec C, is, you have to bear in mind, still a lot lighter than many American and European rivals, such as cars like the Charger, the Chrysler 300C, the BMW M5, etc. And although it's not as powerful as those cars, you should never disregard a weight advantage, because in a straight line power will give you the win, but around corners weight makes much more of a drastic difference, and the vast majority of circuits featured on GT6 require cornering ability. So the Impreza has an advantage there, a clear advantage in fact over many other super saloons. Its weight is far lower. Now the horsepower per tonne isn't amazingly high due to the limited power output. It's 463 horsepower per tonne, so it's not amazing, but it's certainly not bad either. And as far as the price, like most Japanese performance cars on Gran Turismo, it's very affordable. It costs 37,380 credits. So pretty reasonable. A little bit more than some of the other Imprezas, but still not high priced at all. Significantly cheaper, in fact, than Mercedes, BMW or Audi rivals. What about in terms of how competitive it actually is though? Is this car worth buying? Not necessarily compared to those German or American rivals, but primarily compared to other Imprezas, because that's the real important question. If you're the kind of person who wants to buy an Impreza, which one should you go for? Or should you maybe buy more than one for different purposes? Well, to some degree I would say that that is the case. The Imprezas, although technically all the same car, are definitely different from one another. Each level or age of Impreza has some very clear advantages over the others. The older models tend to be not quite as powerful, but are also significantly lighter and looser in terms of steering, and also mechanically simpler, which is an advantage even on the game. You can actually feel that through the steering and control of the car. On the other hand, the newer models typically have more power, more torque, and are, it's to be noted, premium models. And that's easy to overlook, but if you're going to buy a car and use it a lot, it is nice to have better graphics and, for those who want it, a fully detailed interior. So this newer version is certainly a good alternative to other hot hatches, and that's it overall for this particular review of the newer shape Impreza. So I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.